Just 2 weeks after our wedding, I was kicked out of my own home, all because of a strange cologne scent. Everything seemed peaceful after the wedding, but a simple question from my husband, "What's with the men's cologne smell in the bedroom?" set off a chain of unexpected events. Now I find myself wondering if this love is strong enough to mend the wounds I'm carrying. We had been married for 2 weeks, and everything seemed perfect. My husband was the person I had spent 5 years loving, sharing every joy and sorrow. Just last week, we had a small romantic wedding where we couldn't stop smiling, looking forward to a bright future together. But just 2 weeks later, I couldn't have imagined that something so ridiculous could change everything. On Monday, he received a call from his brother telling him that their mother had fallen when their father backed the car into the driveway, and she had broken her hip. I couldn't imagine the pain she must have been in, and my husband couldn't wait. He decided to drive immediately to be with her, to make sure she had the best care after her hip replacement surgery. Though I knew he had to go, I didn't stop him. We shared a kiss goodbye, and I understood he wanted to be there for his family during this difficult time. While he was away, I felt lonely, but there was nothing I could do except keep working and take care of the house. We only communicated through quick texts and calls each day. I convinced myself that this would be a time for me to focus on my job and think about our future. On Wednesday morning, when he returned from his trip, I was getting ready for work. He approached me with a serious look, not like his usual self. He asked me a question that caught me off guard, and I had no idea what he meant. "Why does it smell like men's cologne, especially in our bedroom?" I stood there, stunned, not understanding what he was talking about. I hadn't used any cologne, and I couldn't imagine how it could smell like that in the house. I replied, confused, "I don't know. Maybe I didn't notice, but I'm running late for work, don't worry about it." He didn't say anything else, but just looked at me silently. A strange unease began to build up inside me. I hurried to leave for work, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. The cologne smell he mentioned didn't come from me. I didn't wear that type of cologne. That whole day, I couldn't concentrate on work. I kept thinking about his strange question. When I returned home after work, everything had changed. The door was locked, and I couldn't get in. I tried calling and texting him, but received no response. A deep sense of fear overwhelmed me, and I had no idea what was happening. When I called my mother, she told me I could stay with her. Everything seemed to be falling apart, and I didn't know how to explain myself. When I arrived at my mother's house, I was completely confused and anxious. Everything seemed to be falling apart before my eyes. I couldn't believe what had just happened, but the silence from my husband only made me feel more lost. Unable to reach him, I sat in my mother's room, feeling helpless, waiting and trying to understand why he had acted the way he did. That evening, I received a text from him, but it wasn't an explanation. It was a message saying, "It's over between us." I read that message over and over, unable to believe what I was seeing. He hadn't just cut off contact, but had decisively ended our relationship just 2 weeks into our marriage. My heart twisted in disbelief, and I couldn't understand why everything had changed so quickly. I tried calling him back, but all I got was a long ringing tone, followed by a notification that his phone was turned off. At that point, I felt completely discarded. With no explanation and no chance to defend myself, I couldn't understand why he would think I could do something like that, something I couldn't even imagine doing in my wildest dreams. Meanwhile, when I called his mother, she wasted no time showing her harsh attitude. She demanded I return the wedding ring, claiming that it was valuable and belonged to the family, and that I didn't deserve to keep it. I couldn't believe my mother-in-law was treating me this way, especially after everything that had just happened. Everyone in his family had already heard the story and expressed their anger toward me. Even though his mother was in the hospital, she didn't hesitate to spread negative rumors about me, making me feel utterly humiliated. Each message I received from his family members only made me feel more trapped, as if I were stuck in a hole with no way out. I couldn't believe they had believed such a horrible story without a second thought. They didn't even give me a chance to explain or prove my innocence. At this point, I didn't know what to do anymore. Our relationship had seemingly crumbled in an instant, with no consideration or second chances. I tried to find a reason for my husband's actions, but all I received in return was coldness and silence. The feeling of being betrayed, discarded like a worthless object, was excruciating. The only question I kept asking myself was, why would he think I could do such a terrible thing? What would happen next? I couldn't even imagine. Every time I thought about facing him, I only felt sadness and pain. How could I continue to live in a family where misunderstandings and a lack of trust could destroy everything I had built over the years? On Friday morning, as I sat on the couch at my mom's house, feeling confused and unsure of what to do next, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my husband. My heart clenched as I read the few words he sent. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that to you." These short words, packed with emotion, left me unsure of how to react. He apologized, but was there still anything left to salvage? I sat there in silence, staring at the screen, unable to believe that he had sent me this message. A mix of pity and anger swelled inside me. How could he so easily end everything, and then think that just a simple apology would make it all better? I was hurt too much, not only because he didn't trust me, but because his actions were so rushed and thoughtless. Almost immediately, he called. At first, I didn't want to answer, but eventually I decided to pick up. His voice was strained, as if he was trying to keep his emotions in check. I didn't think things through when I saw that cologne smell. I was so angry. I just wanted to protect myself and my family. His words were filled with regret. "I don't want to lose you, but I know my actions hurt you deeply." I listened, but my heart remained heavy. Each word he spoke only made me more disappointed. If he truly loved me, how could he so easily believe I would betray him, especially when I was alone, with no one around and no reason to hurt him? The trust in our relationship had been shattered completely, and no apology could erase what had happened. "I know you're angry with me, but I couldn't bear seeing that smell in our house. Can you understand that?" he asked, his voice weak. I felt exhausted from the conversation, but I replied, "You know, I don't need you to understand. I just needed you to trust me, not jump to conclusions like that. And your family didn't even give me a chance to explain. Do you know how that feels?" There was a long silence on the other end, as if he was trying to absorb everything I had said. Then, he sighed deeply and said, "I know I was wrong, but I can't live without you. What can I do to make things right?" At that moment, I didn't know what to say. I couldn't go back immediately. Despite still loving him, my self-respect wouldn't allow me to forgive so easily. This relationship needed time to heal, and I needed time to think clearly about what had happened and what I truly wanted. "I can't come back right now," I said, my voice soft but firm. "I need time to think. I can't just return without having clear answers to everything you've done to me." He didn't say anything more, just a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. And I knew that no matter how many times he apologized, I would need a lot of time to trust him again. After that phone call, I felt even more exhausted and confused. He had apologized, but the hurt inside me hadn't faded. Honestly, I didn't know what to do next. The feeling of being misunderstood and hurt so deeply made it impossible for me to go back right away. My self-respect told me that I couldn't accept a relationship where trust could be so easily broken. I needed time to think, to find myself again, and to decide whether we could continue or not. For the following week, he didn't stop sending messages, calling, and even came to my mom's house to apologize. Every time I saw his name on my phone screen, I felt both anger and pity. He kept crying and repeatedly said, "I love you, I can't live without you," but I no longer felt any sincerity in those words. If he truly loved me, how could he so easily push me out of his life over a men's cologne scent without a second thought about my explanation? One evening, when I was sitting alone in my mom's room, overwhelmed by loneliness, he came again. This time I couldn't avoid him. He stood at the door, looking devastated and worried. His eyes were red, probably from crying all day. "You can't go on like this, can you?" he asked, his voice choking with emotion. "I can't live without you. You are everything to me." I looked at him, a storm of emotions rising within me. Honestly, I didn't know what to feel. Everything was so unclear, so complicated. I remembered all the good times we shared, the beautiful memories, the promises, But then he let doubt and anger overshadow it all. "You know," I began, my voice catching, "I can't just go back right now. I need to heal first. I can't just return because of some apologies." He dropped to his knees in front of me, his hands trembling as if he couldn't control his emotions. "I will do anything to make you forgive me. I know you need time, but I can't wait forever. I love you so much. You are everything." He looked at me with eyes full of hope, but I couldn't respond with certainty. It felt like standing at a crossroads, one path being forgiveness, the other being a sense of self-respect that wouldn't allow me to just let it go. A long silence passed, and then I finally sighed, breaking the quiet. "You need to understand that I can't just forget everything that's happened overnight. I need time to think about it all, and most importantly, I need you to prove that you deserve my trust." He looked up, his eyes filled with pleading and regret. "I will wait. You don't need to worry. I just want you back." Though his words moved me, I couldn't forget the feeling of betrayal and the lack of trust in his actions. I knew no matter how much I loved him, I had to set aside time to think about this relationship. Could we overcome the doubt, the hurt, and start over? Or would we forever be strangers, no matter how many apologies he gave? A week passed in silence, but I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I didn't respond to him, I didn't call back, and I ignored his apology messages. Every time my phone rang with his name, I felt confused and unsure of what to do. The feeling of betrayal still lingered, and even though there was love in me, I couldn't forget how easily he had thrown me out of his life just because of a men's cologne scent. Finally, I decided I had to face him. After a week of thinking, I could no longer live in this uncertainty. I needed to know, once and for all, whether we could overcome this hurt and continue or not. So, I arranged to meet him at a quiet cafe where we could talk calmly. When he arrived, he looked nervous and tense. I could see he was struggling with his emotions, but I couldn't ignore what he had done. He sat down across from me, silent for a moment, then finally spoke. "I know you're still angry, and I can't change what I've done, but could you give me another chance?" I looked at him, unsure of how to respond. His apology was genuine, but was it enough for me to come back? Inside, the hurt was still raw, and my doubts about his ability to change grew even larger. "Do you think I can forgive you so easily?" I asked, my voice tinged with bitterness. "You can apologize all you want, but I can't forget how quickly you jumped to conclusions about me without even considering my side." He stayed silent, lowered his head, and sighed. "I know I was wrong. I just want you to understand that I love you and will do anything to make things right. But I also understand that you need time." I looked at him, torn. At that moment, I couldn't just look at his apologies or his mixed emotions. I needed time to reflect on everything, on this relationship, and what I truly wanted in my life. "I need to go. I need time to think. I can't just come back right away," I replied, my voice firmer. He didn't react immediately. He looked at me as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just sighed and shook his head. "I'll wait for you. I just hope you won't leave me forever." At that moment, I felt both heartbroken and exhausted. Although I loved him, I knew I couldn't return to a relationship where trust had been broken so deeply. I needed to find myself before making any decisions. Could we overcome it all and rebuild trust? Or was this the end? I didn't have the answer right then. But one thing I was sure of was that I needed time to heal and figure out the next step for myself.